This month has been a bit of an emotional roller coaster for me. Introducing you to so many amazing people in the ALS community as part of ALS Awareness Month has been so much fun, but I've also been fiercely missing my brother Ryan, who died from ALS last June. If this is the first Friendly Podcast Guide episode you've tuned into this month, I recommend you go back and listen to all of the other wonderful people from the ALS community I've been able to talk to this month. And to cap off a month full of inspiring people, I'm excited to introduce you to Lorri, the host of the podcast I'm Dying to Tell You. Hi, I'm Andy Smiley, the Friendly Podcast Guide. I'm a mom who uses podcasts to fight the boredom and loneliness of motherhood and to entertain my kids when I need a break. And I want you to be able to use podcasts in these ways too. But it can be overwhelming to try and find a podcast you or your kids will enjoy in the thousands of shows that are out there. That's where I come in. Each week, I talk about different podcasts with topics ranging from parenting to pop culture and everything in between. My episodes are short and they answer your questions about the show, so you'll know if it's a good fit for you or your kids or not. Now, let's talk podcasts. Lorri describes the show like this. Hi, I'm Lorri. I'm dying from ALS, a fatal disease with no cure. I've been encouraged by so much to keep living this life and stay focused on the positive. I created this podcast to find and share stories of inspiration in hopes of inspiring you. Before we learn more about the vibe of I'm Dying to Tell You, we're going to take a quick break to talk about donating to a community that is near and dear to my heart. I am ALS. One of my goals in life is to be able to donate $1,000 a month to ALS research to help finally find better treatments and a cure for ALS. While I'm not able to do that quite yet, I know that the money that I do donate to I Am ALS is doing so much good for the ALS community. If you want to help the ALS community, a simple but profound way for you to do that is to donate to I Am ALS. I Am ALS is a patient-led community that provides critical support and resources to those living with ALS, caregivers, and loved ones. They raise awareness and advocate for the ALS community's needs. They've also been able to increase federal funding for ALS research and helped revolutionize the development of treatments and cures for ALS. I Am ALS has been able to do all of this because of the donations they receive each year. So, if you're looking for a way to make a difference in the ALS community, donating to I Am ALS is a great way to do it. We'll put a link to the donation page in the show notes. Now we get to hear from Lorri as she talks about the hope and inspiration she feels from all of the amazing people she has on her show. Just as a heads up, one part of having ALS is that you slowly lose the ability to speak. Because of this, Lorri's speech is a little bit slurred, but listening to our conversation is completely worth the slightly extra bit of effort it will take to understand her. Lorri, thank you so much for being here today. I cannot wait to hear more about I'm Dying to Tell You, your podcast. But first, before we dive in, as a little introduction to my listeners, I like to ask, what's the last podcast episode you listened to?
Jay Shetty.
That's awesome. It's a good one and very inspiring.
Jay Shetty. Oh, man, and I have to look at the title because I find that I listen to his current stuff and then I go back and, listen to parts of different ones. But, man, I love him so much. Yeah.
Definitely.
Really good stuff.
So, yeah, just inspiring. I love that. Yeah. That's a good one. Okay. Now that we've talked about him, let's talk about you and your show. Why did you start your podcast?
Well, let me just really quick. 20 years ago, I was 38 and I was told I had 2 to 5 years to live. 2 to 5 years because I was diagnosed with ALS. And then before I knew it, I'm celebrating 15 years with ALS. And that was 5 years ago. And at that point, I was like, what should I do with the extra time that I've been given? And it just came on my heart, to do a podcast and share inspiration. I have been lifted up by so many over the years that I wanted people to feel that as well, especially when things are really, really hard.
Definitely. Oh, I love that. I'm so grateful for you for bringing a little sunshine and a little inspiration to the hard
Hmm.
moments that inevitably come.
Yeah. We all have them. ALS is big. It's devastating. It's incredibly difficult, but everyone has something. And I love the fact that I find people that are able to see the goodness and the hope and the joy in the middle of all the madness, that we all have, no matter what it looks like.
Yeah, that is fabulous. That just makes me so happy. I feel like we always need a little bit more joy, and
Yeah.
I love a podcast that can bring that.
Yeah.
So that's delightful. Okay. So I feel like you've pretty much kind of said this, but what do you want people to get out of your podcast?
I want them to know they are loved and not alone. And I say that at the end of every episode because I know that we all feel defeated, in life, part of the day, the whole week. We all go through feeling defeated, whether it's because of a relationship, a disease, finances, whatever. And so I think it's really helpful to know that you are not alone and that other people are in your situation and that you're loved by someone, and that connection and that hope is really, really powerful if you allow it to be.
Yes, as long as you let it in, it can change your life, right? Just
Yeah.
knowing that you're not alone is such a life-changing thing. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, sorry, I just keep saying that. I really like your show.
Aw, thank you.
So I feel like we've kind of touched on this in a lot of different ways, but how would you describe the vibe or the feeling of your show?
That is an interesting question because, at first I would say it's really inspirational, but there are episodes that are tough. And however, if you listen in and you listen to the end, I feel like everyone would always be hopeful at the end and be encouraged, and just be lifted up to know that if so-and-so can get through that scenario, then I can handle whatever's thrown my way. So I've had people say, I know someone that was just diagnosed with ALS. I tried to tell them to listen to the podcast, but they said they're not ready yet. Like knowing or thinking it would be hard. But once you listen in, I think it provides more hope. And more hope that living with ALS or living in a really dark season doesn't have to keep you there, So,
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And so needed in the ALS community, but also just all of us need reminders of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm trying to tell. Like my friends even, you don't have to be an ALS community to listen in to a podcast that is hosted by someone that has ALS and talks to a lot of people going through it, because it is a really good example. I mean, when you are living with a terminal illness that doesn't have a cure, and in some situations, unable to move, unable to walk, talk, and even breathe on your own, that's a lot of tough stuff. And when someone can look at the world and look at their life with great appreciation and value, that tells you something right there. You know?
Definitely. Yeah. Totally. And like inspiration and hopeful from people that you would think maybe don't have that hope or don't
Oh, yeah.
like, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, people say they feel sorry for me or they look at me with pity, but really, those are some of the people that are most at peace and most satisfied and plugged into the world than you could ever imagine, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I am going to ask you what your favorite episode or maybe couple of episodes are for your show, but to give you a second to kind of think about it, can you first tell me where can people find you? Like social media, website, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, I am pretty much everywhere on social media. Everything at I'm Dying to Tell You podcast. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and even TikTok.
Okay, I love it. I'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes so people can find you wherever they want to find you.
Nice.
And okay, now I want to hear your favorite episode of your show or a couple of episodes because I do know it's hard to choose.
Yeah, that is a really tough question, and I get asked that a lot, but it really is hard because I get so much from every episode. I only talk to people that inspire me, and people inspire me in different ways. I've had ones that, like Mitch Albom, he wrote the book Tuesdays with Lorri. Do you remember that book?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, being in the ALS community, I was so anxious to talk to him about Lorri and writing the book. So that was super special. And what a great guy. Like, outside of being this amazing author, he has such a heart. And for people that are in Haiti or in his hometown of Detroit, he is such a giver, just such an amazing man. And then a couple episodes ago, I talked to my sons, and they interviewed me for my 20th year living with ALS. And I gotta say, there were a lot of laughs and tears in that episode. They asked me questions that listeners had sent in, but in addition, they asked me their own. And I was really taken back by, after 20 years, what they had to ask me, and it was really eye-opening and hard but good to have a conversation with them about, what they were thinking now, what they were thinking when they were 11 and 13 and told their mom was going to die. So that was really, really special. And that was pretty recent.
That sounds like a beautiful episode. And truly, I bet they will treasure that for the rest of their lives, right? That episode is their episode. And that is so beautiful.
Yeah. And it was fun. It was fun.
Totally. Yeah. And And I bet with boys, I bet it was also kind of silly and probably super funny.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people send me notes and say that was my favorite episode because it was really natural and authentic, and, more so because it was, my children and they know me and I know them, and, so, just more of an intimate conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kind of just the best sometimes to just kind of get a peek into someone else's like family dynamic. And
Yeah.
and the love between a family. So
Yeah.
that's lovely. I will make sure to link both of those episodes that you talked about in the show notes so that people can find them easily.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Because, you know, it's sometimes hard and we need to make it as easy as possible for people to find you and fall in love with you. So, okay. Is there anything else that you want to add that we haven't touched on yet?
I guess the most important thing would be just that, and I've already said it, that the podcast is not for just the ALS community. It's for anyone that wants a sense of hope and wants to be encouraged by seeing others who are in their very, very darkest days. That, you know, how they can find joy and hope and love and faith. It's a really good example and encouragement for all of us.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It has been an absolute delight, and I cannot wait to introduce all of my listeners to you and your show.
Thank you. And thanks for what you do. I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. You are so sweet. Isn't Lorri's joy and love of life contagious? If you're looking for more hope and inspiration, make sure to go back and listen to the other episodes that came out this month to be introduced to more of the lovely people in the ALS community. Also, if you want to help the ALS community, you can click the link in the show notes to donate to I Am ALS. Talk to you soon.